Okay, here we are. And guess what? It's Bitcoin Saturday Night Live with Guess and Ugly. So, welcome to our first edition. Hey, I hope the quality is good now. I know that we've had problems with this. Guess has helped us out tremendously today. I promise you that our YouTube, we're new at this, okay? We're new at YouTube, but everything that we do here at the Ensenada Tech House is just going to get better and better. And I want to thank all of you subscribers because I'm just stoked about what we're doing. We can only do this one step at a time. Our priority right now is to get the affiliate program working before the end of the month. Got some really cool, exciting news, and that is we're not going to try, it's going to happen. We're going to be doing a working man's Bitcoin cruise from Los Angeles to Ensenada on September. It'll be here on September 21st. It leaves actually on a Thursday night and arrives back in LA on Sunday. So you only miss one day of work. It's kind of a working man's cruise. It's not going to cost an arm and a leg. I think it's about $400, $4 to $450, depending if you want a window or no window. I'll get more information on that first. But I've got my good friend here, Gus. I'm just calling Gus. It's a lot easier for me. So, Gus, what do you think of Ensenada so far?
I think Ensenada is pretty wild. So we went in and visited an ATV ride. It was kind of weird because I remember. I mean, I'm used to riding a bike, and that was a completely different beast. It just has a completely different, controlling. And I saw you guys blowing those fireworks out in the street like like maniacs.
Well, I think a neighbor complained because I noticed the police did drive by. We really shouldn't be shooting them off in the city so much, but
So it feels like there's way more freedom in Mexico than in the land of the free, so to speak.
yeah, it's sad to say, but it's true. It absolutely is true. I kind of liken it. I grew up in the 50s, and so I kind of liken it to the freedom that we had in the 1950s, and so I feel right at home down here. And at any rate, that's what we're up to. So I thought maybe what we'd first do is I'm not good at this, guys, so be patient. I'm going to try and do screen share. So let me see if I can do this. I hit screen share, and I was told to hit application window, and then I'm going to hit this share. That work? Now, what else do I need to do here? Present to everyone? That one? Okay. Am I screen sharing?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So, how do I manipulate it? So, okay, this is my Twitter. Huh? Oh, minimize. Where? Minimize. Up here? Oh, okay. So the first thing I thought we'd do, we've done some polling here, and so I'm going to go visit some of these polls. Let me get my tweets, and the first poll I want to do is, let's see. Well, we had a poll about the mask, because that's been kind of a controversy. Should I be wearing the mask or not? And this is a pretty good poll. About a third, and I'm listening to you, about a third of you say never wear the mask, and about 15% said always. But most of you said, hey, it's my choice and not, it's up to me. And then about 10% wanted special events on it. So I'm listening. We're not going to have the mask all the time. The reason I'm going to have the mask on now is we just want to do a screen check to see if how the audio came across, because we knew that was a problem. So all these little problems we're going to take care of one step at a time. Oh, that was a great tweet, whoever sent that one. But we did another poll, and there it is. Who does Kestutis look most like? Tone Bays. Now look at his haircut. Hey, you got a haircut. You don't look like Tone Bays anymore. But it looks like most of you think he looks just like John Cena. So
44%. Strange enough, 44%.
Yeah, 44%, almost half of you. So At any rate, he certainly has a different physique from this ugly old goat. So, at any rate, I thought that was interesting. And yeah, kind of getting in trouble a little bit because we wrote about my friend Richard Hart, and uh, at any rate, it's an interesting project that he has. It's just another shitcoin, and I didn't write about the technical side because that's not my expertise, but I do know the market side. And I do think that it has a very real possibility that a lot of the shitcoiners will be selling their shitcoin to buy Bitcoin, and that for a short term at least, it might help Bitcoin dominance because people are going to want to get in there and quote claim their stake. Do you have any thoughts about Richard Hart's text? Yes.
Um, I think as well, Richard Hart is a good person. I believe so. This project, on the other hand, is quite interesting because I personally don't see any kind of underlying value except if everyone subscribes to the idea. And if we have something that depends on everyone subscribing to the idea, that history shows us that that doesn't go very well. And to be honest, based on what I looked at, uh, I I was struggling to find an underlying value. Maybe I don't understand. Maybe there's something there, and maybe Richard could explain to us why is the this coin would be any different than and shitcoins that have been released. But at this point, I don't see anything. But I think that if you have something like that where you can just make money out of thin air, something out of nothing, I think there's going to be a lot of demand for it, and there's going to be a lot of demand for Bitcoin, like you said. So it may leave an impact on our charts, um, but it may not be as significant as we expect because I think there's so much complexity, there's so much in that goes into charts to produce that movement that it's very difficult to predict that if new coin could lead to that. So I would say that we may have some sort of impact on the charts, but I don't think it's going to be that significant.
Yeah, my only comment is the way I compare it is I think what's disappointing is that he has one time at least, you know, publicly, proclaimed himself to be a Bitcoin only person, a Bitcoin maximalist. And so many people that have been Bitcoin maximalists have just fallen by the wayside. And this is just another case. Now, the thing that I do give Richard credit for is I call it's more honest corruption rather than a deceptive corruption. Because he's very honest. He's in it for the money. He's in it for you guys to pump things up, and that's the whole purpose of the thing. So, the other ICOs, they're always promising to save the planet or something else, and it's total and complete fraud. And they're really not prosecuted because they raise enough money to defend themselves. So, actually, I think probably Richard's setting himself up for a bigger target than some of the other ICOs. What it's being issued, it's not a security, but there is going to be a question of later on if it is. It's a shit coin, and I'm staying away from it personally, and I recommend everyone else does. But it may have. I just examined the market impact, and the two things that I see standing out is it may have a impact on Bitcoin. A lot of shitcoiners will sell some of their Bitcoin to have a Bitcoin holding so they can get the stake. And then the other thing is it poses a real dilemma for these exchanges because they're holding other people's Bitcoin and they can, okay, is that better? Up here close? Is that better? Okay. They, they're going to be holding other people's Bitcoins and they'll clean the stake and then I'll start selling on their exchanges. And if that happens, then it's going to be a real clown and circus show. And it's not going to help anything. I think Bitcoin will definitely fall and will definitely come out on top. And it may have one beneficial thing, and that is expose the fraudulent ICOs that are already out there. So, in that sense, I don't think that, I don't hold, I hold Richard in a kind of a unique field of his own, and I call it honest corruption rather than deceptive corruption.
It's not exactly ICO.
No.
Yeah, so I think that's the big distinction. It's not exactly ICO. And but if just fundamentally, I don't subscribe to the idea that something can come out of nothing. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it does seem like the value has to come from somewhere.
And we did do a little poll, and it looks like there's still 13 hours left, but only about 12% of the people think that Richard's offer is an honest offering. Most of them kind of agree that it is corrupt. 88% believe it's corrupt to various degrees. So whether or not it has an impact at all, it's just going to be how people react. And the reason I covered this issue, I was really reluctant to because you just even hate giving the shitcoins publicity. But in this case, it was raised at the Unconfiscatable conference, and it does kind of provide a moral dilemma for Bitcoin holders. And so I'm not going to, you're going to have to make that decision on your own. I'm not going to go for it. I mean, there's other people that are the opposite camp. I think Trace Mayer, he tries to collect every little Bitcoin drop there is out there. And so there's two theories, but you're going to give up something, and it's going to be your privacy unless you really know what you're doing. Okay, so that's
another thing. I also like that he stopped calling it Bitcoin X and just went with X. I think that's a better idea.
Yeah, I agree.
And because the only argument that Bitcoin has had is that, like, why do you have to piggyback on an existing name and use it in a sort of just trying to piggyback on the name. So I think it's a good idea that he changed it to Hex, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see. But I think that it may have a little effect on Bitcoin, and but it's not going to be as much as we expect.
Okay. Well, let's go another direction. Let's go. Oops, I got my camera. They're looking. I got to get back to me. How do I get back to us? Our picture here. And stop share screen. That should do it. And now I got to go. Here we are. All right. So we're going to do, again, I'm kind of new at this series. I'm new at YouTube. We're going to see how things go. But one series that I'm going to start doing is we'll kind of look at trading. And this is your Bitcoin trader. That's what a Bitcoin trader BitMEX trader looks like. It's kind of the thinker, but that's what most of us Bitcoin BitMEX traders look like. And sometimes, not all the time, but
it's a very stressed thinker.
Yes, very stressed thinker. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to see if I can share screen a little bit and talk a little bit about the subscriptions for people that are considering it. So let me see if I can do this. Share screen and go up here. Go up here. Go back there. And minimize, right? Here. Okay, let's see. I should have my BitMEX account up here. Okay, here we go. And let me see if everything's up here. Yeah, this is, I'm just going to show this. This is I've had all my BitMEX accounts closed because, I'm a U.S. citizen. They don't like that. And so I have to trade in my wife trades and I advise her. And she actually had her account was closed because I logged in once from the U.S. So it's just pardon? Okay. So anyway, this is the equity right now. I started with 2 Bitcoin in February, and we ran it up to about a little over. I was up to size 24, and then I didn't want to lose equity. So I took, I've always been bullish ever since we took out the November low in December, and the basis was so wide. And I got a little bit, I went to establish a large position in January and did, but I did get stopped out and lost about 5.5 Bitcoin after making 22 from a 2.22 Bitcoin account. So this was started in February, and we just took out 7.55, which amounts to, well, okay, which amounts to the amount that I have lost since January, but it actually didn't lose, it's equity downturn. And then I put in 2 more Bitcoin and traded from there. And so since February 4th, the account's been run up without the original investment out. Now I'm trading what I call other people's money. Now, what I do is, trading is dynamic. I can't, tell you ahead of time what I'm doing or those kind of things. But what I do is, if you're a lifetime trading subscriber, you will get not daily updates, but you get screenshots of this regularly, and you'll get the CSV file, so you'll see exactly the trades that I make. Again, to me, trading it's not a bunch of secret formulas. It's not knowing all the technical stuff. That's good and interesting stuff, and you need to find some technical tools to help you. Successful trading, it depends on one secret and one secret alone, and that is your money management. And that's what I teach, and that's what I emphasize. And the same principle I'm using in the trading today, we're going to be using to build the website and see where we can run with it. So I'm making about a 10 Bitcoin investment on getting this thing going. Again, everything that we get is going to be put right back into it to build quality, to get help, and all I am is a little content provider, and I got so much I need to learn about Bitcoin. So anyway, I just wanted subscribers. What you get if you get a lifetime subscription, and it's half price through the end of April, which is 0.05 Bitcoin. So what is that? About $250. That's a lifetime subscription. Okay, that's my life, not yours. And let me get out of screen share here. Stop sharing. Boom. Maybe. Right down. You can go back here. Again, I'm new at this. You guys have to be patient with me. There we go. Okay, so it's my life, not your life. And but I'm rather spry for my age, and I have lots of fun. And that's where we're at. So last week I went up and visited Gus, and this week he came down and visited me because I wanted to see what we have down here, the direction that we're going, because people really can't envision it or see what we're doing. And hey, I need help. I'm looking for talent. I don't know where we're going with this thing, but we're going to go, and we're moving past it. So I guess I got to hold it closer there. Okay. So that's that end of it. Now, the next thing I want to cover briefly, and that's going to be this cruise. Again, we're not going to be able to spend a lot of time on that until May. It's not going to be on the website because we want to get the number one thing we're working on is the affiliate code. So when I read a good article that you guys like, and they all center around dollar averaging. I mean, that's where I made my reputation on, and that is what I truly believe in. And the guys they've asked me, well, when do I start? Well, you start now. And those charts that I built are always built on the very worst timing. So if you figure, when you jump in, well, just jump in now. Even if it's a $5,000, you didn't catch the low, okay, fine, but you didn't catch the high. You're going to be a lot better off buying a lump sum. Just figure out what it was from that last January's peak. So buy, what $8,000 worth now, and then spend $500 a month thereafter, and build your nest egg that way. And essentially, that's what I did. I mean, basically, I put, when I turned 62, I immediately drew my Social Security. And when I discovered Bitcoin in 2013, that's what I was doing. And so you can just take that dollar averaging chart and double it, and you can see, how I've been able to take, I don't depend on Uncle Sam for my future. And In fact, it's just the opposite. I wanted to get out of his system as fast as I could, and that's what I did. Oh, that's it. Look, yeah, how do you like that? So I got these glasses so I can see, and that seems to work too. We're figuring all this out one step at a time. Um, so, let's see, what else did I want to cover today? All right. I didn't cover the, I need to share the, I need to screen share again and show you about this cruise. Bring this up. Okay. Okay, this is a little bit about the cruise. Again, we're not going to have it on the website probably till May, but if you want to, I expect it to be sold out right now. All they will promise us is 60, 60 space for 60 people. The biggest problem is finding the conference space. But my philosophy is, we start selling a bunch of tickets on them, they're going to find space for us to run a larger conference. But let's get the 60 done first and see where we can go for it with it. If you want to make sure, right now it's 60. It's going to be limited to that. Wrong page. What's wrong page? Okay.
That sounds like a.
Okay. At any rate, anyway, this is it. If you want to sign up for it, you need to call the 800 number. You have to give them this cruise group number. You have to give them the PIN and that extension number. You can deposit $100 and you're in. Okay, and the cost of the cruise is going to be about $395 per person. I'm showing the wrong info. What am I showing? Okay. Okay, hang on. We're going to get better at this, I promise you. Oh, maybe down there. I don't know how to show the page, guys. Maybe I have. Yeah, but we're not there, so I don't know what to say. Maybe I can do it this way. Yeah. What happened? Am I done? Okay, what's going on? Hmm? Okay, and we're back on here. Are you back on there? Apparently, I can't pull up the page I wanted to show you, so we'll just have to save that for another time. Or send it out on an email. Unless you can find it. Can you find it, Eddie? Okay, let's try this again. Okay. No, it's probably because it's down there. I probably need to pull up the file. This doesn't like that, apparently. Okay, we'll save it for another day. The cruise isn't that important right now. We have until May to take care of that. But I just want to call it to their attention. It's coming. It's not that important now. The most important thing for us right now is to get the affiliate codes going. The most important thing is to let you know that the subscription, what you get with it, again, the biggest thing that you're going to get is you're going to get all the trading history of an actual trading account. And you'll see actually how I've done it. This is not unusual. I've done it time and again, running a small amount of Bitcoin into a large amount of Bitcoin. And it can be done. But it takes a patience, it takes a great deal of discipline, and the techniques you use are your own. And there's a lot of things that I'll teach you the things that I use, but what I use isn't necessarily what you should use. And you're not going to have success if you try and follow me. You need to get your own way of doing things. The most important thing is the money management. If you learn that end of it, you will be successful. That's where people fail. I can tell you because I failed there. And if you manage your money correctly, you can be a very, very successful trader. Now, the next thing I'll be writing about over the next years, kind of dollar cost averaging in reverse. How do we exit? I mean, the number one thing is this is not the time to be exiting. This is the time you want to be accumulating. So I'm not really too concerned about that. But there is a time, that you want not to sell all of your Bitcoin, but to enjoy life and to cash in on it. All these things that the Ensenada Tech House, that's a result of Bitcoin. And I couldn't be doing this if it wasn't for the success I've had, in trading Bitcoin and for just hodling Bitcoin. And I want to share that with, everyone that I do business with. I want them to be successful too. Like the people that work for me, I want them to be successful. And that's what this whole thing about Bitcoin is about: freedom and changing culture, and wow, how it's going to change things in the future. And that's where Richard Hart has it all wrong. And that's where I'm also have a little bit different perspective because, he's looking for, I guess, eternal life, which, I already have. But I'm going to come, to be honest with you, a lot of this stuff I will come at you from a Christian point of view and with Christian apologetics. So if you find that offensive, well, that's just too bad, so sad. But, everybody has their place where they're coming from, and that's going to be mine, and you know it, and I know it. So let's make it. Okay. All right. So I've been asked to please take off my mask. I will do so. I have no problems doing it, and we'll go from there. Here we go. Here we go. All right.
Yeah. So what I think.
Here we go.
I need to get my glasses on.
Okay. I think we finally get the sound right.
Yeah, we're gonna get
All
it better.
right.
We don't have a boom.
Yeah, it's okay. Like we
Justin
finally
helped us put this together, and we're gonna have a much, I'm gonna get a little light, one of those neon lights that says "Ugly Old Go" back there.
Yeah,
We're gonna
yeah.
have a table here so people come by and visit. They can swing by.
Yeah.
Because this is kind of an open house. This is the kind of place.
Yeah.
This is the kind of place where we can, you can come and hang out.
Yeah.
Actually, spend the night here if you want to. We got a couple. I got a literal in-house attorney living with me now.
They say you look like a high school teacher.
Okay, well, I don't.
Well, Olgot
So,
is a teacher, so
That's it. Anything we wanted to cover here? I know you wanted to cover an idea that you have, Gus, and throw it out there. And it's interesting.
so
You have to-
there's a lot of ideas you just thrown out there, and I would like to comment on a few. First one, I think I liked when you said that everything is in life is a little bit like trading. You look for these opportunities, you look for these moments where you can put something at risk and see if that turns into something more. And it doesn't always work out our way, because I think this if we're talking about life, that's how it always works out, right? It's never, it doesn't work all the time. Anyone who's been in business long enough knows that. And so what do you do? What do you do when there's no certainty? Well, whenever you have things that are going well for you, like I say, just ride that puppy. Whenever you things are not going well, just cut it, end it, and just forget about it.
And that's one of the hardest things to do. Here, fine. Can we? Okay, that's one of the hardest things to do. Very few people could really hodl, and there's tend to be two different things, or they hodl too much. There's two things that happen to people, and that is they sold their Bitcoin way too early. They maybe most people I gave Bitcoin or bought Bitcoin sold it out, after it went over $1,000 or $2,000. And the other thing that a lot of people have done is they believe so much in Bitcoin, they just hold it, and they never really, cashed in any of it all the way up. Mm-hmm. And you have to do that. I mean, you just have to. I mean, and sometimes, it's not you that's doing it. In my case, I wanted to hold the Bitcoin. I believe in Bitcoin, but my wife wanted a Ford Raptor. She wanted this, she wanted that. So that's fine. You know what? There's a happiness. There's a reward in this thing too, and so you have to take those things into account. So yeah, if you're just hoarding Bitcoin, that's a legitimate criticism, but as an entrepreneur, we're not hoarding it, we're saving it until we find a better opportunity. For example, I'm spending Bitcoin to start, the uglyoldgoat.com website. That's what I'm, I believe in it. I'm going to have a passion for it. There's a lot more to it than I ever thought. I'm not tech savvy, so I'm having to learn all this stuff. I was locked up for 11 years, so I missed out on all the .com boom, and I was up to snuff in 1990, but in 2002 I wasn't. And so you just start all over again and start things anew. The biggest thing you have going for you, I'm 70 years old, but if I lost everything, I could do it over. I hope I don't have to, but I did it again when I was well over 50, and that can be done. I mean, hopefully you learn from your mistakes, in your youth, and you're going to make them. That's how you learn. You learn and grow by mistakes. So you're not going to, and trading is the same way. You learn to trade from your failures, not from your successes, and you need to get that one in your head. And you don't want to have any big failures. You can't have the fatal failure. And the money management, you can't blow that once. If you blow that once, you're wiped out.
Yeah, so I guess you will have failures, but make sure they're small ones.
Right.
I mean, as you can apply that to trading and life in general. I think there's one concept that I think we should pinpoint is because trading attracts, I think, very smart people. I think I think Bill Williams said that it was like top 10 percentile of IQ that attracts people into trading, and smart people usually have a lot of problems with trading. It's because they come from some background that is a pure science, and where you can put something and you get put some effort into it, and if you did it right, you got a specific result. And very quickly they realize that, oh, wait a second, this is I'm not getting it right, I'm not getting it wrong, I did everything correctly, I did my calculations correctly, how come I'm not right? And what happens, and I think the first thing what happens is that they attribute a lot to their identity, and there could be some psychological trauma there, because because very logical people think in a way that, okay, so if I did everything I could and I'm failing half of the time, that means I'm not as smart as I thought I was. So that leads to a lot of stress and very negative feelings, and that is a pure result of you being too smart.
Well, you made the analogy earlier when we were talking, which I thought was good, and that was you assume, okay, let's assume that we're programming a computer to trade, and you can program it two ways. You can program it to be the most profitable, or what was the other way to program it?
The most successful.
Try
to make it as many times right.
Right, or more successful. And if it's always looking to be profitable, it's going to be right 80 or 90% of the time, but that 10% it will get wiped out.
Yeah.
And that's
So if I can elaborate on that.
Yeah.
So what Ugly is talking about is this thought experiment that I did. It's a hypothetical, but I think it shows very well. It gives us a little bit of something to learn from. So let's say we have AI, artificial intelligence has a machine learning, and it just goes through the market and basically learns to trade the best way possible, right? And let's say we have this machine. I don't know, maybe somebody does, but let's say we have that. Now, if you give the mission to that machine to make as much money as possible with a certain time frame, what you will find is that it probably will get it wrong, about half of the time, but it will be very profitable. So what is going on? Like if we have something that the pinnacle of the intelligence that we could muster up as humans and through technology, and it still gets half the time wrong. It's because the mission was very very clear. It's not to be right and wrong, but to make money. So what the machine is doing is looking for the moments, is taking chances. Even the smartest machine in the world is still taking chances. And it's taking chances on the moments, finding the moments where you have a little loss risk, but a much greater reward. And it's all about finding these moments, because it's like navigating the labyrinth when you're totally blind. You don't know which way the market is going, right? The only way you can find out which way market is going is by putting in your position and losing here a little bit, and then boom, oh, the market went that way. So you go with it, and that's your winning trade. So it's perfectly normal to have 1% loss over here, 2% loss over here, 3% loss over here, and then in one trade that is 30% back. So I say like, you can't, if you want to go to the moon, you gotta pay the ticket price. Like you won't be able to go if you're going to avoid that specific moment of walking through through coal, so to speak, and then it was making me. I look local right now.
No, he looks better than the ugly old.
Just give me the firework behind my ear.
He needs the fishing hat.
If you have a firework behind my ear, I'd like to
Okay, give me the mic, because we got a couple questions here. I'm going to answer the first one here. Please, looks like it's about to drop to 3K. How do you keep dollar cost averaging? Right thing to do, feels like waiting. Well, okay. You know what? I'm glad it's going to 3,000. I don't know if it is. I didn't think it was going to go to 3,000. Oh, yeah, he looks better in this thing. You want to wear the old fishing hat?
No, I think I'm going to be going with the gangster style.
Okay, all right. Well, gangster style's like this. Okay. All right. So, anyway, but first of all, how do you know it's going under 3,000? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of analysts think that it is. I know Tyler Jenks thinks it's going to go under 1,000. He might very well be right. But the whole thing is, that's not, we're not in here. Nobody knows. I certainly am not the one that knows. Now, hopefully, if it goes down to 3,000 or breaks through there, I'll be smart enough to get short. But I'm not giving up my hodl. I'll risk a small part of my hodl trading it. But my game is I want to be accumulating here. I don't want to be giving up. And so that's why I said, well, the first thing you're going to see on that account that I showed, I'm very seriously just taking out 12 Bitcoin and starting all over again with 2. I don't need the Bitcoin. I mean, I've made my bones that don't need to be doing this. I'm doing it because I love it and I believe in it. And I want other people to be successful. I mean, Bitcoin is a gift for you, the next generation. It's for you guys, and you need to understand that, and you need to get through that through your head. So, if Bitcoin is what we think it is, it's going to be laughable. If whether you buy it at $5,000 or $3,000, it's really you're not looking at it correctly if that's what you're doing.
So if I may add, based on Mayer multiple, we're still below it. And, if we are going to 3,000, just keep dollar cost averaging when it comes to
In fact,
investment.
go heavier right now.
Yeah.
You dollar cost average heavier. And the way I would say it is, look, the things that I've showed you through dollar cost averaging is I take the very worst. So if you say, hey, good, great, I came in a little bit late, I didn't have the worst timing, go ahead and make an initial purchase and then start your dollar cost averaging, according to what you can afford in your own income. Okay, I have another question here too, the great question that I'm looking forward to answer. It says, what will the startups look like that will enable Bitcoin to be utilized in sound commercial banking? You know what, I'm very flattered and that this question was even asked, because this is where people have to be thinking and going. I'm a big believer in Bitcoin, okay? I believe, but I also know that it's not going to fly without banking. I am not a Murray Rothbard fan. He proposed 100% reserve gold standard, which is silly. It never worked. Gold makes a lousy cash. It's never been cash. What happened in the 19th century is free market banking emerged, and it emerged with the gold standard. And actually, it was through the marketplace that banks were able to nearly perfect, I mean, not perfect, nothing's perfect, but they were able to regulate the money supply depending upon the new production coming into the markets. Gold was simply the standard. And that was simply the reserve. So if a bank started making bad decisions, its reserves were drawn upon very quickly. Now, ask me how's this going to happen? I'm not sure, but I kind of had a vision of this, and I think that a lot of us already in this movement will be doing it unconsciously, whether or not we do or not. Now, one thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be almost exclusively Bitcoin. Now, incidentally, these hats my wife makes, and they're going to be sold in Bitcoin. We don't have those up on the website yet. Those are things that are coming, one thing at a time. Oh yeah, we got the ugly old goat fishing hat. Maybe I'll wear that one. It even has a tag on it. Here, I'll put this one on. All right, there we go. This ugly old goat hat. Good fishing hat, and eventually we're going to be selling these stabs up here. So these will be businesses that things that will have an Amazon link, and who knows where we're going to go with this thing. But what's going to happen is with this referral program, you're going to have a Bitcoin account with us, essentially, and we're going to be to some degree or another a Bitcoin bank for you. And hopefully we're a fairly decent trusted third party, but if not, we're going to, we haven't set it out how we're going to do it, but if your referrals you want to put in your Bitcoin account once a week or so forth, we're not going to do it every day because it's too big a hassle and there's security issues and all that, but we're going to set up, you want your referrals sent to your Bitcoin address? Yeah, that will be done. But the other thing is, you're going to have an account with us. You can buy things on our store. But, one of my good friends and one of my mentors that's taught me so much about fundamentals is Tone Bays. And he takes Bitcoin. And the same program that I'm running for referrals, he's going to have that same program. I said, look, this isn't just for me. This is for anybody that's in the Bitcoin business. And so we're all going to have your deposits, small little deposits, but you may not want to get something from my store. You might want to get something from Tone Bays' store. Well, you know what? It's coming where we're going to be able to do that, and it's going to cost you nothing because we're going to cover it. Because that's what I see as a start, okay? It's not going to happen just all of a sudden somebody creates a big ICO and we're the big Bitcoin bank of the world. It's going to happen one transaction at a time.
I think that we can't apply old maps onto a new thing. I think Bitcoin is a completely different thing, and we are so used to the traditional banking system that we think that that's what's going to happen in the future. It's hard to say what's going to happen in the future, but I think Bitcoin is so different, and it's allowed people to have so much more freedom with the financially and being able to not only store but keep the value that they earn. Besides the volatility, of course, the volatility is still a problem, and I think a lot of people still are scared of Bitcoin because of the volatility. But if you were to never mind the 80 or 90% drops in prices, and you just take the average medium, you will see that the Bitcoin is appreciating. Why is it doing that? It's because you're comparing it something that has no value, which is dollar. And I think that banking is going to be very different in future. It's like Ugly said, every person will be its own bank.
And there's going to be
and
you're going to trust certain bankers, and you're not going to trust others. I mean, Richard Hart, I would take my Bitcoin out of there as fast as it comes in, but because we know that he's got to have a centralized shitcoin.
Well, Richard Hart is still in making money business and not necessarily like changing the world where we don't need to worry about money as such.
And you wouldn't want to hold the hex. You'd want to sell your hex as quickly as possible. And that's where the scam comes in, because you're going to have to basically promote your hex, bad money to get good money, and you're going to, how can you do it with good conscience? And I can't tell them. We're primarily in this to provide a gift that keeps on giving, and that's sound money. Richard Hart admittedly says, hey, this is his way of getting rich quick, and you can follow me with it. So, I call that, it's honest corruption. I mean, the guy's very upfront about it, and so I might take my hat off, Richard Hart, The other ICOs ought to admit the same thing, and, I think it'd be a blessing to everybody involved. But to promise people, that we're going to save the planet or whatever the Bitcoin's going to do, and that's what these ICOs do. That's.
I don't think he has like a bad intention at heart, but I do think that it is missing a point. It is because Bitcoin came around to eliminate such thing as artificial scarcity, and if we want to see what we saw with people just donating money to people and being so much more generous and friendly, and if we want to see that type of world, then that's what I think we need to go for, because it's missing the point. We have something, something came to us in this world and it says, here's something that you no longer need to fight about, the scarcity. And we're still doing it. We're still trying to missing the point that, hey, this is something that you don't need to think about money. And we're seeing how can we make more money out of this. Guys, like if you can have one Bitcoin, and if Bitcoin is going to be adopted, that's you're a millionaire. Like that's all you need to worry about. And the best thing that you could be doing, I think, is just getting invested in Bitcoin and then pushing that project behind. If each one of us would just invest in Bitcoin and make sure it succeeds, that's all you would need to ever do, really, because I think we're underestimating of the potential of what Bitcoin has.
Well, I would add this, that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and that's from a proverb. So I don't, good intentions don't mean really anything. A person can have very bad intentions and wind up doing some very good things, and that's what Joseph said to his brothers. What you intended for evil, the Lord meant for good, and that's sort of what is in Bitcoin. What you see is you're going to see the very best and the very worst in Bitcoin, and there's so much people that have disappointed us that we thought we're on the right track, but it's kind of a cream is slowly rising to the top. I think one of the biggest things that's going on is Tone Vey really put it together with this unconfiscatable, and what he did in Malta. I haven't been able to watch the videos. I gotta see them all because he's got so much information there, and I want to put it together down here. We need to build a node down here in the in the Ensenada Tech House. I mean, this is, like I say, it's a big old rabbit hole. And once you get into Bitcoin, and the little bit that I know how to do, I will be doing. Okay, buy on the way down, take profits on the way up. Yeah, that's a good cliche.
We have a rough idea of where is the top and where is the bottom,
Yeah, I mean,
approximately, and that's plenty.
yeah, but it's also it's your personal needs and your personal life, and sometimes it just makes sense. You know, I sold quite a bit, not because I necessarily wanted to, but my wife wanted this and my wife wanted that, and it was the first time I could afford to give it to her, and so she got what she wanted. And I was so happy to be her husband and able to do it. It gives me a purpose in life. I mean, more than anything, it's given me a purpose in life. I've really been able to provide for the ones that I love. And, some of these things are just hard to get through. For example, when we first were married, and I had a business, voice broadcasting, and I know how to use credit, and I never use a credit card to buy things, whether it be a car or TV or anything else, but I did use credit to buy equipment for my business. But because that's how we made our living. But it took a long time to pay off that credit card debt, but it was required before I met her, and she never really understood that. I said, my love, if we could just pay off this credit card debt, it's going to be like making an extra $1,000 a month. She never really could understand that. And so finally what happened was, I had a very good year in my business in 2016, and everything I paid off all the credit card debt, paid off all of our debt. I think we took care of everything else we needed, and put the rest in Bitcoin. Well, the rest is history. That's where I was able to take it on. Now I've got a debt-free life, and I've got everything that I could possibly hope for. I love it here in Ensenada. It's a very Bitcoin-friendly country. It has a wonderful exchange down here. That may not always be so. I mean, we've got things down here, but if things get oppressive, the freedom that I have, I may never be able to escape Mexico, but my wealth can, and we can start somewhere else. So I think we need to go a little bit into that too, Gus, because I know you lived under Soviet communism for the first years of your life. Do you want to tell a little bit about that, and then let's talk a little bit about Julian Assange, because I know he was arrested, and that disturbed me along with a lot of other people. It doesn't surprise me at all, but it is a very disturbing thing that happened. You're going to see more and more and more of that. So, anyway, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, my background, I always thought I have a regular background, but then when I met other people, I realized that I don't have a very traditional background. I was born in Soviet Russia, Lithuania, and so I grew up in the communism, a full-blown communism, where you wait in a big line for a loaf of bread or any kind of drink and so on and so on. But what my take was from that, the lessons that I learned, and I think it didn't have any kind of bad impact on me. I think it actually had a good impact, but it wasn't so for the generation previous to me, because Soviet Union collapsed. I think when I was 8 years old, and then as a teenager I grew up into this different world. But what we had back then was that as kids, like, you dream, right? We watched the Hollywood movies, and we wanted to go to America, and we had these big dreams. But grown-ups would look at us like as just being naive, like, what are you kidding? You can't leave the country, right? And no one will let you out. I haven't had a banana until I was 18 years old. Yeah, so all the, like, chewing gum, it would be like a fancy thing. Somebody brought the chewing gum from Germany because it was amazing. So that's what it was. My take from that is that that experiment went wrong, and here's why. Because it kills the human spirit. Because you lived in an environment that it doesn't matter whether you try or you don't, it doesn't matter, you are the same.
That's true of almost any bureaucracy, and where there's no, advancement on merit, and so that's why, government is just so inefficient, because there's really very little incentive to do anything right except to keep the bureaucracy.
Yeah, so if you kill the human spirit like that, then I mean, you have no humanity left, and that's why this experiment failed. And I know a lot of people think that it would be utopia, that everyone's equal, but I can tell you that it's a nightmare. It's nothing could be more. I think that nothing could be more horrible that everyone's equal. Because what does it mean? That means that it doesn't matter how much more you want, how much harder you try, whether you have more competence in one field or another. It's not going to be rewarded, and that is the definition of human spirit. So, but of course there are occasions where you would want to employ something like that, and that's in the rare occasions when you have extreme poverty, and at that level I think it's a different world. I don't think you want to have extreme poverty, and I think that it would be nice to sort of take care of that. But once the person is out of extreme poverty and has all the capacity to be competent in any kind of field, that's it. Then there should not be more of a.
Did you feel like you grew up in extreme poverty, or you just didn't know any better?
Well, everyone was the same, so I had no idea what's rich, what's poor. Only when Soviet Union collapsed, and I realized that there's such concept as there's rich people, there's poor people.
So you were just all the same.
We were all the same, but you could.
How about the members of the party today?
Actually, you were able to see who's rich, but you thought it is because it's a position that the person has. The officials were able to drive the cars, and so on, and you wouldn't be able to have a car at first. Only the people who lead the communion or whatever. Those were the rich people, but not because of the competence, just because they are in a position.
Okay. Hey, I got a question here, and I don't even understand it. Maybe you know it. Are the quants utilizing AI?
Yeah, I'm not sure what quants is. I would need to know more about what quants is to answer this question.
Okay. So I don't know. I don't know anything about AI. So I'll leave it. What I don't know about, I tend not to talk about.
What I do know is that it is possible to make a AI trading, because a trading machine. They did it with this Chinese game. They did it first with the chess, then they did it with this Chinese game called Go, which has more possible variations of the game than like I think the stars in the universe or something like that, or maybe molecules in the universe, something crazy. So
infinity is infinity.
Yeah,
you never can get from point A to point B if you go half of the distance of that.
Yeah. So this Google DeepMind project, I think, managed to create AI that would be winning that game, and I'm sure that you could easily create AI that would be great at trading. But I tell you what, that it would get half of the time wrong, and you gotta understand that.
Yeah, sometime I need to address that, because I know there's a lot of trading bots, and I'm sure that there's successful trading bots out there, but ugly goats trade against the bots. It's trading is not a science, folks. It is an art, and it's a dance, and you have to, you just learn. Some people can dance and some people can't, and people dance differently, and my dance might be ugly, but hey, you know what? It's a dance that works, and that's the only thing that counts in trading.
Yeah, I do think so. That it's definitely not a science, and if you come with a scientific mind, you will be, punished severely. So I think you have to look at it as a completely a different thing, and you have to look at it as life. You have to understand that there's such thing as uncertainty. You have to understand there's such thing as chaos and order, and that like all these predictions, Bitcoin's going to go this way, that way, it's very speculative. Bitcoin at this point is still speculative, but I think we are headed towards the adoption, and what I say is that, like, if Bitcoin fails, then what, I think that
if Bitcoin fails and the experiment has failed, there's not going to be another
I think
Bitcoin. It's the longest chain with proof of work. It's unconfiscatable and it has no borders, and that's really all that it needs. Now, as far as creating more Bitcoin, no, you don't need to create more Bitcoin, but needs to be the standard. And will there be money creation? Yes, there should be, because there should be money creation for producers as things are coming into the market. And that's why, I love Milton Friedman and Free to Choose, but Milton Friedman was a monetarist. He thought, well, we need to have a fixed amount of inflation, every year. And didn't really understand the concept, but the market had already figured that out through self-liquidation commercial paper. And I'm really, honored and so happy somebody asked that question, because that's, to me, the solution is you need to look at the past, you need to look at history. The future of Bitcoin is going to be based on the development, not of faster transactions. That's going to come, but that's not going to even have to be on Bitcoin. It's going to come within people that are using Bitcoin. It's going to be on the Bitcoin standard, because like Jimmy Song says, the most efficient system is just an SQL. You don't need Bitcoin for that. If I'm on the standard and there's 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 businesses all on Bitcoin, we're going to have people's accounts, and we're going to be able to switch them back and forth, and it's going to be free, and not going to be free really, because as producers, we're going to cover that to make it easier. That's how I see it developing. That's how I see it coming up. It's not going to be some big ICO that, well, we're going to be, the new bank, but there will be money creation, and it's non-inflationary money creation, because the money is created, and it represents not just Bitcoin, but all the new things coming into the marketplace. Now, that doesn't mean that you create money so somebody can buy a car or somebody can buy a house. No, that has to come from somebody saving Bitcoin. That's a different function. Because if you're foregoing having a house, and somebody else wants to have a house and they're borrowing Bitcoin from you to have that house, that's a completely different, that's a savings and loan type of an operation rather than a production. But the Bitcoin standard, it's going to be just that. It's going to be a standard. And the banking is going to arise on its own. How? I don't know exactly how, but it will. And, by getting involved in Bitcoin, by starting a Bitcoin business, we're going to begin that process.
I have a little different take on this. I see Bitcoin as, and it's actually that brings me to the WikiLeaks as well. I see Bitcoin as as something very different, and you see these things arise, and what it is it's its own sovereign entity. It's not a human, it's not a machine, it's a protocol, and it has its own sovereign, it's its own sovereign entity, and which means it's not a subject to a human condition. Things like greed or coming up with something out of thin air, all of these different things that humans been doing, it's not a subject to that anymore, and that is why it's very unique in how it is, and that's why we're just looking at this piece of stone, like these monkeys in that movie in Odyssey, and we don't know what the hell is going to happen. We know it's something important, it's something big, but we have no idea. But what I do see right now is that I do see people moving money back and forth very quickly. I know that Lightning Network is something that you're just trying to get familiar with, but you get to use Bitcoin to buy a coffee, so that's how it's kind of you merging.
I don't want to buy coffee with my Bitcoin.
No,
I can use my credit card. That's the difference. Yeah.
Right, at this point,
Right.
at this point, correct. I mean, but right now when we have a traditional fiat or a debt system, and we have at the same time, simultaneously, we have a system that is saving system that we used to have, like gold, right? So we have a unique environment. We have a debt system and a saving system living simultaneously. It's not going to survive for too long. One of them is going to go away. And I think the principle of this is that you live in a debt system where you could get something like dollar out of thin air, and you put something in Bitcoin that takes time and energy to produce. I don't think there's a lot to think about. The only thing is to worry is that will the Bitcoin succeed? Now, if you bet on the fact that Bitcoin will succeed, there is no brainer. Like, once I understood the Bitcoin for quite some time, but it took me about 2 years to make a shift in my brain, and yeah.
When I saw it, when I finally looked at it, I just clicked. My jaw just dropped. I couldn't believe it.
That's happened to me, but then when it came to press a button, it was time for me
to press it fast enough. I was pounding.
Yeah, see, no, it wasn't with me because there's subconsciously you still value a dollar, you still value fiat, even though you understand that there is no value behind it. So it took me a while to press that button, but once I did press it, I had no worries whatsoever. I had no worries that the price went down after I bought it. I had complete peace of mind of that. And by the way, I got in. I was watching it through Mt. Gox situation and everything, and I got in right at the bottom at the where the Mayer multiple is in my video, $230. That's when I started buying Bitcoin, and I kept on buying Bitcoin till about.
And you bought it on Mt. Gox, right?
No. I think Coinbase was around back then. Yeah. No. Mt. Gox was interesting, but I understood that it was 1,200 and it went back to 250. I understood that from obviously other markets and everything. That is a good opportunity to buy, and that's not going anywhere.
You got a little thing there. Look at that. I've got 2 questions, and then we'll call them quits for the night. But okay, I got a question here. What does it mean to take profits and transfer your savings from Bitcoin to fiat? Well, I'm really not transferring my money to fiat. I'm not in fiat. I mean, you got to have fiat to survive, but I don't consider it an asset. In fact, they give me credit cards, and I run those credit cards up. They pay me to use those credit cards, and I use them all the time that I can and pay them off every month. So why shouldn't I? I don't ever have a balance on them. Once those credit cards were paid off, that was gone forever. Okay, so I'm not transferring it into fiat. Now I am transferring it into other assets. And for example, we bought a lot of equipment so we can make hats and T-shirts, and we actually built factories. We actually built this house. We lived in this house first, but then we got another house, and now this is the Ensenada Tech House. So this is how you do it. We haven't really gotten out of fiat. We just I call it there's 2 kinds of entrepreneurs. There's those entrepreneurs that have Bitcoin and those that don't have Bitcoin. And so my mission is to get other people that are in business you don't put everything in Bitcoin, but you want to have 5 to 15% of your net worth in Bitcoin. Now, mine's maybe a little higher than that, but it's not 100% like it was at one time. But I'm very comfortable with the position that I have. And like I say, I want to be productive. the way that I benefit society is by having assets here, employing people, and being an asset to Ensenada, to where I live. That's where, you know, the tire meets the road, and that's what we're in here. That's what it's all about. Okay, here's one: is journaling trades as a position trader different than day trading or swing trading? I do think that swing trading, first of all, day trading, I don't really recommend you do that. I think my success has always been from position trading. That doesn't mean that you can't day trade or swing trade, but the way I do it, and again, they're successful swing traders. In fact, this last year, there's huge traders. I was in the top 10 in 2017, but the top traders now are way bigger than I ever was, and a lot of them are swing traders. But they're gunslingers, and you know a lot of those guys do eventually get wiped out trading that way. And I'm not here to teach you those kind of principles, but you can. Yeah, there are swing traders, and you can swing trade, and you can be very successful at it. That's not what I'm teaching. I do believe in position trading. I do think that you can, rather than call it day trade, I call it trimming. And if you read the book, The Art of Execution, that I've recommended time and time again, that's what I forgot the name of the author's name is Shore, I think. He doesn't trade himself, but he manages funds. And so he did a study of all the people that he's had managed funds, and the successful ones from those that weren't successful, and they all had certain common principles. And I read that book and said, wow, that's it. And I didn't even know he actually had a name for it. I didn't know. I was just doing it automatically. And that is called trimming. And that is, as you trade, you trim. That's how you take profit out of the market. You trim and you take it out.
Connoisseur strategy.
Yeah, you just take some of it out. And you also, like I trade against the box. You can be trimming, like I would sell on the way up, and you get that, fine. If I don't, keep on. But you got to be able to hold that trend. You got to be able to hodl. I mean, I had my hodl, and I was long all the way up to 20,000. I was going to dump it all. If it had gone 60% in a week, I was ready to turn it around. It went 57%. So I was too precise. Don't be an analyst. Don't be an analyst. You know, if you're looking for an exact science, you're going to get in trouble. Okay, yeah. And then that's it. I think that's it.
So I have something to add about this. When it comes to which one do you want to go with, day trading, swing trading, or position trading, I think first of all you have to take something in consideration. It's like your time and your efforts. And what do you want to do? Do you want to be a day trader? And first of all, have a look at what day trader life is like. And if you want to spend most of your time in front of the screen, trading, then if you can afford to do that, most people can, because they have family, they have friends, they have other things going on, and that type of life is actually sad. In the day traders that I do know, like they. It's just a type of life. You got to go with it. If you go with that. So it's not my cup of tea. I prefer to have leverage. I prefer to have what I like about Tyler Jenks. I think he made one move with Bitcoin and he's sitting in a rocking chair.
Let me share that briefly. This last year, 2018. We had it really, it was a bear market. It was a very choppy bear market. It didn't just go down. It would go down and up, but it was like this, and it was very choppy, and I was still playing it as a trending market, and so I never could really, I never could establish a position either way.
We're getting a new era.
And so it was a very difficult market. But the thing is, my trading principles kept me from losing. Okay, now I lost based in fiat a lot, but I made Bitcoin. Okay, but not enough to make up the difference that I lost in the fiat value. So it depends upon how you measure things. But I caught the one move, and you only need to catch one move. I caught the move from 6,400 to under 3,500. That's it. That made my whole year.
Yep. Yep. So that's what you have to understand is that like Ugly is telling you what is the secret in trading essentially, and it's not technical analysis. It's just being able to keep taking those chances, doing it correctly, and one of those could save all of your little losses, and then make the whole year.
Yeah, technical analysis is useful. There's no reason, I don't, but, you can't use it. There's an infinite number of things out there you can do. So you just have to pick the things that you want. I look at these things and 95% I throw away. I use very few indicators compared to most traders. I really do.
So basically, can you look at yourself as a good trader when trading 6 months and not getting like a lot of success? That's the thing. It's when you get it right, it's not because you are so smart, and when you get it wrong, it's not because you're stupid. Like that, you're dealing with chances here. So the secret is not with the actual knowledge. It's not like, that's what I say. It's not what you know in trading that matters. It's who you are, and you just, as long as you try to be that person, as long as you get your habits, your behaviors right, then you can have a very little basic technical understanding and do phenomenally well. So I think that's what I have to say about trading.
Okay, just got a little comment. Yeah, we have somebody from Cuba that says, "I feel your pain. I come from the Soviet Union too, and also lived in Cuban communism. Double trouble." So what a blessing I had, because, and my parents always told me that, if you were born in America, you were one of the lucky 5% in the whole world. And so in that sense, I mean, and the way I look at, my country, I love my country, I love our Constitution, but right now I despise our government, okay? It's getting a little bit better, but we got a long, long way to go.
Yeah, when you're talking about ideologies, like looking back, I would say that yes, it was a painful experience and so on. But when I was at the time, it didn't feel. It felt normal. I never had an idea that I won't be able to travel the world or whatever, because I was a kid, right? But there are grown-ups out there that live through that, and that's it. Their spirit is pretty much killed. They don't want to go anywhere. Like they don't believe in anything. They don't believe that good things can happen, and like it's just, as long as everything stays the same, that's they're comfortable with, and so I was lucky that didn't happen, and so I was able to. We had this hunger and then as soon as they opened the door, so to speak, and you could be able to travel and go and do whatever you want, there was then what you had is a lot of chaos. Like everybody went into gangs, right? And you have a lot of tribalism going on, because now it's like, okay, well, there's no ideology. What do we do? So everybody coalesced into tribes, gangs, and that's what you had. And then the problem we had is that doctors, scientists were pretty much looked down upon because they weren't rich. Who were rich? Gangsters. So everyone want to be a gangster, and but obviously other countries had different ideas, and I always liked more competence than corruption, and I always liked where they celebrate the competence. And
that's a big one too. We are celebrating competence, and that's what we're trying to develop here. I'm not very competent in too many things, but I'm old, but still not too old to learn, and I'm not too old to pass on a lot of things. But I think that's a big difference. What was it you said? Instead of competence, you said you want competence instead of corruption, and that's what the problem that Richard Hart has, is basically what he's offering is something that's really corrupt. He's honestly corrupt. He's being honest about it, but we want Bitcoin is the competent store of value. It's the competent money, and it's not a store of value yet. It's a lousy store of value. It doesn't work as cash either, but it's coming. And not only is Bitcoin competent, but there's the people that are in Bitcoin are competent, but there's even a bigger side to it. The people that are in Bitcoin have integrity. And my mentor, E.C. Harwood, that's what we coined on the coin. He said, "What do you want on your gold coin?" And he said, "For integrity, there is no substitute."
Yeah.
And that's where, as long as we can maintain that flag, Bitcoin is as good as the people in it. And so we have to keep the integrity of Bitcoin and with each other. And that's where this is gonna go.
Yeah, I totally agree. You do get the feel that there's type of people behind Bitcoin that they're not exactly for monetary gain. Monetary gain is fun, but that's not what they're in for there. And you can see them right away. You can see who they are. And I honestly thought that Richard Hart is one of those people.
A lot of people fool us, and he fooled a lot. He fooled a lot of people.
Well, I don't think he fooled anyone. I think we
For a little while, just for a little while.
a lot of a lot of things are not the way it seems, and we don't know what's going on with him, right? Like what we see is not what we may not be able to see. A lot of things that's going on with him. He changed a lot, right? Since I always follow him, I really liked, but it was something different about him. There's a lot of changes that he went through, and I don't know why. It's up to him and to know.
Why don't think he really understands sound money, if you want to know the truth? I really don't think he does. And I think that's one of the, I don't think, like for example, Roger Ver. I agree with him on so many things, but he really doesn't understand sound money. He doesn't get it. And
you really think that they just don't understand, or they do understand, but they choose
well, they could be. They might choose. Now, Richard, I think, has chosen. He knows better and has chosen. Roger's a little bit harder to figure out. I think Roger really does think he knows.
Why do you think Richard wants to, what does he want to achieve? I mean, he has money, right? Like, and if it's not for the money, what is he trying to do? Is he trying to make other people rich? Because some people will lose.
It's not just money, it's control and power. People like control.
Well, there you go. I think you nailed right on the head. I think this is what I observed as well. I think Roger Ver was a big community, Bitcoin community, leader, I would say, right? Like he would advocate for Bitcoin, and it seemed like he does understand Bitcoin. But then there was a disagreement with the core developers, right? And I don't think he felt like he was heard. I don't think he
was heard, and just he was heard and given a platform, and
let
it go.
But I don't think he felt like he was heard. And I do kind of like I know like nobody wants to look from his point of view, but let's just see.
Well, it's just he's misrepresented and lied about so much. I do think Roger Ver is a dishonest person.
But there was a switch as well. Did you notice that with Roger Ver was a change as well? And I think when you mentioned that it went into power, I think that's a psychological change where you're going into when you have a lot of money. At some point, you're going into for the power,
It's corrupt. It's corrupted me.
And we see this over and over again. We have Roger Ver his own Bitcoin. We have Craig Wright his own Bitcoin, and we have Richard Hart, which is changing because
their own little world, their own little nation state or fiefdom of money.
Right, and that's
they don't
missing.
Understand. Hayek was sent along. The competition is on the standard, not who controls the standard or who has the standard. We have the standard. Now let's compete on it.
Exactly. So we have to be comfortable of not having control because there's nothing bad about it. Because there's nothing bad about it. It's great.
Time to go because we need to go get something to eat. So let us know how this thing went. Give us a thumbs up. I guess I pound that.
I want to say thank Ugly for inviting me here, like showing me this crazy Ensenada lifestyle that you guys going here. I love this idea that you're creating this Bitcoin Tech House. I really wish a lot of success to you, and I'm really happy that you are so enthusiastic about it. We need more people like you, and I just hope that we're going to create something amazing.
Well, yeah, and I'm enthusiastic about it, and I know what I can contribute and know what I can't, and that's the other thing too, is I know what I don't know, and I guess that comes with getting older. But what I do know, I'm more than happy to share with you, and the things I don't know, man, I try and find the best people I can to share that information with, and that's what the goal of this way. And the goal of this is, ugly old goat's one thing, but then the next level I want to go to is I still have this idea in my back of the head that we need to have one good website that kind of has it all there that we can direct people to, and I don't have to have control of or ownership or anything. I think it's going to be kind of maybe where we're going to go naturally anyway. It's kind of like, what's happening this year is you're seeing a change in the conferences. You're seeing, look at what Tone Bay has been able to accomplish with its conferences. And that's big step in the right direction. I haven't had time to look at what went on there, but I really wanted to go, and I almost went at the last minute, but I couldn't. I got so much going, I just couldn't do it.
Yeah. And I think it's very important, because I think his conference is pretty special, because it stands on the ground on Bitcoin mission and not monetary gain. Okay. And that's very special that he did use his own money to create that.
Can you pull up that page? No. You can or not? Okay.
Nobody is trying to trick anybody over there, and it's just educating people about Bitcoin and having this vision for a better life in the future.
Okay. I was told I need to end with about the information about the cruise again. It's not that important. Is it showing up now? Is that right? Okay, we're going to try and get a screen share so you can kind of write this down. Again, I just want to, okay, it's showing up there. There it is, Working Man Bitcoin Cruise. Now, the important thing is just the date, because if you want to go, set that aside, and if you want to go, make sure you just make a deposit. I'm not charging anything for the conference yet. It's probably going to be about 0.06 Bitcoin, and if you're a subscriber, you get a discount. But you need to call that toll-free number. You need to give them that cruise group number and the PIN number, okay? And let me see if I can scroll down on this. I don't think there's much more information. Conference will be 0.06. Subscribers get 15% discount. So that's where we're going to go on this. I mean, actually, this week, that Saturday, the 21st, they're actually going to have a race down here, an inaugural 400-mile race. And it's really something to see. So if you can, it's going to be a double whammy. I mean, it'd be a great experience in Ensenada. There's hundreds of thousands of people here, and it's just something that you can't. Well, maybe not for this race because they never had this one before. But that's what we're going to. That's why we scheduled it for then. And frankly, I don't know whether we want to do this. Just once a year or twice a year, or I'm actually thinking that we can do this like every month, just have one, because it's in LA. People can get on this cruise. You leave on Thursday, you come back on Sunday. It's real easy. And what we have to do is just fill up the ship, because then we'll have the power to say, you know what, we need the conference rooms, because we're going to have, this is a working man's Bitcoin cruise. So that's what I have behind it. It just, have different levels kind of things. If you need to know how to set up a trezor, we can have that. We can just whatever, everybody's at a different level on this stuff, and we don't know where it's going, but I know this particular cruise, there's a high population center there. Everybody can get down there, you can hop on and come back, you miss one day of work, and that's it. So it's a very practical thing. You don't have to go to the Mediterranean or to Indonesia to go on the cruise, and just kind of American and apple pie. So we're done, had fun. We're going to get nothing but better, I hope. Quality went up. Thank you so much, Gus, for setting us up here. We're going to get better and better as we go. So good night, and Yeah, we might do this Saturday night live. We might
Saturday
become,
night
yeah.
is the Bitcoin show,
Yeah,
huh?
the Saturday, that might be fun to do. We never, because people aren't doing it, nobody does one on Saturday night this late. We could start it later, like, hey, this is live, Saturday night, Bitcoin live. All right, it's an idea. All right, so long, folks.
Thanks for watching,
Bye-bye.
guys.